everyone, and welcome to Booming Encore's Learning Bites. My name is Susan Williams, and I'm the founder of Booming Encore. Would you be surprised to find out that the number of Canadians who are over age 55 and are starting their business has tripled over the last 20 years and is one of the fastest growing demographics in entrepreneurship? But still, many people are really reluctant in starting a business later in life. But that's why I'm delighted to have Susan Reid join us today, because she's going to discuss why you might want to change this perspective. Susan Reid is an award-winning authority on vision, both the kind that fuels groundbreaking business ideas and the kind that shapes bold new chapters. She's a former tenured professor of marketing and entrepreneurship and now an adjunct professor at Bishop's University. And she has spent her career helping entrepreneurs and businesses innovate through vision, strategy, innovation, and design. Her latest book, Revisioning Retirement, is especially focused on empowering older adults to pursue new opportunities. And she's here today to discuss what to consider when opening a business later in life. Welcome, Susan. So glad to have you.
Thank you so much for inviting me on your program, Susan.
Well, why don't we just dive right in? So many people fear starting a business later in life. Why shouldn't they?
So, there are a couple of thoughts that I have. And the first thing is that I think it's natural to have fears around any new projects that we have in life. It's the good old amygdala protecting us, the fear flight mechanism. And you may have heard of Amos Tversky and Daniel Kahneman. They've done a lot of work around the idea of prospect theory, which basically says that people are more strongly motivated but to avoid losses than they are to move towards equivalent gains, which is a really interesting thing. But they've proved it out with a lot of research they've done. And I think the idea here is that we need to come up with strategies then to sort of try and overcome this natural tendency that every person has. And so one of the strategies that I suggest in the work that I've done and have been focused on is coming up with a solid vision to guide any of these new activities that we try to do in life, whether it be, hobbies in retirement, whether it be part-time activities, or whether it be trying to do something full out like a new entrepreneurial career.
And why do you think older entrepreneurs have an advantage? Like, is there something special about being older that would actually make them potentially have more success, for lack of a better word?
So there are many. The list is long, which is fantastic. And I mean, first of all, financially, potentially people have some savings and knowledge around how to get access to more finances. They have network. They also possibly have less pressure because they may not be supporting other family members anymore financially. They may have paid off their mortgage. And they also don't have that immediate pressure, maybe to make a go of things right away with an entrepreneurial career. They have a little maybe more time to think about what it is that they want to do and how to pursue that in a way that makes not only sense, but has the potential to be successful. They also have, networks from decades of previous work. They already probably have not only a broad network, but a very deep network of potential partners, clients, maybe even suppliers that they have ready to go for something they want to do, and potentially even investors. They also have, some, usually a good reputation if they're considering to move into something along these lines entrepreneurially. They probably have a good reputation in the people in the industry that they're thinking of getting involved with. They also have learned responses to difficult situations, I would say. People have learned throughout a lifetime, how to be resilient often. They're mature, so they don't, overreact or react really quickly. Often they can be more patient when things don't go your way, which, as we know, as entrepreneurs, that can often happen. So we have to be patient and sometimes and have strategies for dealing with that. And I think that people 50 plus, which is the encore entrepreneurship category, do have a lot of these strategies at hand. And so, many of these things are advantages. I also think another big one related to my own work is just the fact that they tend to know themselves fairly well and, their own strengths and weaknesses, as well as what their values are and their passions for moving forward.
Okay, so just to kind of, I'll just try and recap this a bit. So, first and foremost, the reason why we should consider starting a business is that it's good to challenge ourselves and keep pushing ourselves. I use the analogy you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, or else the world starts to get smaller on you. So one way to do that is to push back a bit and challenge yourself. So opening a business is something to do. We've also got the skills, we've got the network, we've got the resiliency, we've got all of these traits that we've developed over the course of our careers that we can now actually execute into something that we're really interested in, which leads me to my next question, because you were kind of talking a bit around, our backgrounds and our interest. Should we stay sort of within the same framework that we're sort of come through as a career in order to increase our success, or is it sort of wide open? What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, no, I'd say not necessarily. Some people do. The stats are in terms of the percentage of people that want to continue working at least part-time, if not full-time. MIT Age Lab actually just came out with a recent publication. This is Dr. Joe Coughlin's work, based on, I think it was 2022 data from the US, saying that 58% of people are retiring early. And there's another study actually from StatsCan, I think it is, that said that 55% of people do want to continue working. So you've got an early retire group of retirees who want to continue working on some level. The question is, how are they doing it, right? So so some people will continue take the network they've already built and sort of naturally, especially I'd say with younger retirees, maybe just naturally morph into something else like consulting in the area that they were working and that kind of thing. So I think some people do stick there, but I definitely in my book Revisioning Retirement, as we've talked about this, I definitely challenge people to at least ask themselves the question and think about, what is not only your doing vision with what you want to do in life, but what are you aspiring to be? What's your being vision? Who do you want to become? Because sometimes that can change for people. I know it changed for me. I mean, I've always been we talked about this. I've always been super achievement oriented, and that's not going anywhere quickly. Like that's always going to be part of my makeup. But what I realized was that it wasn't doing it for me in terms of who I was becoming. I wanted to become really focus on some new things aspirationally. And so that sort of really helped drive where I moved with my new work kind of moving forward with revisioning retirement. So I think I would challenge people to try, think about those aspirations, who they're becoming. It may be that they just want to tweak what they're already doing, which is awesome, or it may be that they look at their values and think, I am aspiring to something new, and or something that I haven't had time for in the past because it's been roll up my sleeves time in life for a long time, and I do want to try something new. So, the rainbow is out there, and it's for people to find whatever path works best for them.
Absolutely. And I'll just use myself as an example. For instance, like I came through the corporate world, strategy and business transformation and organizational development was what I was sort of known for. And then here I am now managing a media company, which, I'm writing, I'm doing social media, I'm doing all these other things. But one thing that I found, because I was like, well, how the heck did I ever get here? But one thing I did find is that I was leveraging all the skills that I developed over that period of time, my communication skills, my relationship skills, all of those skills that you collect over the course of a career, even though it may not be a direct, like going from A to A and it's A to C, you don't lose those skills and they're just reapplied possibly in another area that may even interest you more, like you said. So very
Exactly.
cool.
Exactly. And that actually speaks to something else too, which is that a lot of people wonder about, well, what about my loss of identity,
Oh,
as I leave a career. And I remember I had that fear too. Speaking of fears, I remember thinking, who am I going to be if I leave academia, which I did at 57? Who am I? And then I thought, I'm still me. Like I still bring forward exactly what you just said. Like I still have the skills and the knowledge and the network, but I just want to parlay it in a new way.
exactly. No, and I completely get that because I struggled that identity crisis too. And I think part of it is generational because when we were coming through in our careers, you were dedicated to a sole career. You didn't,
Mm,
if you moonlighted is what they called it, it was like, okay, well, you're kind of cheating on your career. You weren't supposed to do that. And I actually learned through younger generations because of the underemployment situation, a lot of them had to do multiple careers. And
mm,
so they called them slash careers. So they were a business analyst slash dog walker slash yoga instructor, and they were embracing all different aspects of themselves. And I think that's something that we can actually learn from younger generations, and especially in entrepreneurship, is that we don't have to necessarily limit ourselves. I mean, that's the beauty of this time of life. But I do want to go back to one question, and I think it's the fear of starting a business later in life, specifically the financial fear.
mm.
Like, am I going to lose all that money that I saved in my retirement because I'm now going to invest it in a business? And unfortunately, we often see stats of the number of businesses that don't succeed. What's your perspective on that? How do we manage that sort of potential fear of stopping us from moving forward?
Well, I think, I mean, again, the stats are in, and it's actually amazing. There was this article recently, just a couple of weeks ago, in the Wall Street Journal called "The New Age of Entrepreneurship," and in that article, they highlighted quite a few things, including talking about how septuagenarians are actually I think they have the biggest impact right now in the entrepreneurial workplace, which is that was fascinating to me. And it also said that, that they are the most successful entrepreneurs right now as well. There's been data, I think it was from the US Census Bureau came out saying that seniorpreneurs are, some of the most successful
Yeah,
business
so I think it
in
probably comes back to
America.
having a good, solid business plan, starting off slowly, testing and making sure, as you move forward. So it's not like, go out and spend your entire retirement savings right from the get-go. It's more of a slow build potentially, unless you
Yeah,
can.
and I think this, again, coming back to that, most people, the majority of people are doing these things part-time as well.
Mm,
So that
yeah,
I think also says that, it's kind of they're testing the waters, they're checking that, they're doing it in their way with knowledge and foresight, but also protecting the assets that they already have.
yeah.
And I think that that's some of the know-how and know-why that people bring to this at this stage in life.
It's a good thing to remember, like we are older, we are wiser, and we take probably a much more balanced perspective on it. And the other
Mhm.
thing, which is very different than, for instance, if we were starting businesses in our, 20s and 30s, there are so many tools now that are available that are free of charge, between your social media and, setting up a website doesn't cost that much, and reaching out to people and networking and all of those things that we can now do. So that's great. Okay, so thank you so much for this. So we, get rid of our fear, figure out what we want to do, get a solid plan, approach it, in a very business-like manner, and do something you're going to really enjoy, and it'll help keep you, engaged and motivated and interesting and interested. So Susan, if somebody was looking to start a new business, what would you suggest they start with?
Yeah, I think that one of the key things would be definitely that you want to start with a vision. I mean, this is where I come at things from. So this is my way of thinking. And I do think that it stacks the deck in your favor to come up with a clear vision that you can not only helps you guide your own activities, but it helps you to convey what you're doing to others. This is important for building relationships for the business itself, like, client relationships and so on and so forth, to be able to clearly understand and express what you want to do. But it's also good, I think, in terms of your close ties, the people who are close to you in your life. So, if you've been married for 30 years and all of a sudden you decide, hey, I'm going to start this new business, obviously, you want to get your partner or significant other involved in the equation. And it doesn't mean that you have to have the same vision as your significant other, or other important people in your life, children, parents you may be caring for it. But it means that you need to be able to braid together your visions in a way that brings satisfaction and a win-win to all of the parties that are involved. So obviously this involves conversation, but being able to clearly express what your vision is to others helps you through that exercise.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate this. And to everybody out there, I hope you found this information valuable and it helps you live your best booming encore. Thanks again, Susan.
Thank you, Susan.